So first, what I eat is based off of my constitution, my cells, how my body works. So I eat eggs in the morning with toast. I eat some kind of protein at lunch. It's usually fish with lots of cooked vegetables and some kind of starch or grain. And my dinner is often some other kind of protein, like chicken, beef, lamb, and lots of cooked vegetables and some kind of starch or protein, or starch or grain. Now, here's the caveat. This is the alignment for my cells. I don't eat any PUFA oils, so I don't do vegetable oils. I only use like butter. I use a little bit of coconut oil. I use some lard, like real pasture-raised lard. I do milk. But those are the foods that like really feel good in my body. Like, I have so much energy. My brain is clear. I feel amazing. My creativity is on fire. Like, I can be present. My body feels good. My body doesn't hurt. My body recovers from exercise quickly. Like, all the beautiful things. Okay. However, I have clients, let's say, who this would be the worst diet for them. This would really unbalance them if I told them to eat this way, because their cells and their constitution function differently than mine do. So there will always be this asterisk by things where I couldn't possibly give like the one diet for everybody, because it doesn't work that way. And this is the flaw in the system. Now you notice I'm not talking like, here's the diet for Hashis, and here's the diet for diabetes, and here's the diet for fibro, and here's the diet for thyroid conditions, because that also doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. There's no diet like everyone with Hashis should eat this. Everyone with diabetes needs to eat this way. Everyone who wants to do this should do this. It doesn't work that way, because the reasons why you have Hashis or diabetes or fibro or thyroid conditions are going to come down to what your cells do. It is not about the diagnosis. Please stop leaning into the diagnosis. It is a red herring. It is not going to lead you to your healing to follow the diagnosis. You have to work from the cells in your constitution and your body, or it does not work long term. So what I eat is not necessarily the way that you should eat, because I have clients that their ideal breakfast is yogurt and berries or oatmeal, and their ideal lunch is like fruit and legumes and cooked vegetables and, a starchy veg and some grain. So you see there's a big difference between mine and theirs, and there's a reason for that. And it comes down to the cells. So that is something that I work with. Every woman that works with me gets that customized approach where we go by their constitution and I identify and guide them through. And then I give feedback as they track that food. And then we check it all with their temperature and pulse to see how their cells are responding, and we can make micro adjustments. That's part of when people work with me in my Thriving Health program. On a very general level, in terms of food in our body and cell stress response, because it all comes down to cell stress response. Again, it is not about the diagnosis. There is no perfect diet for Hashis or anything else. You have to eat according to your cells. And the main principle is we must lower cell stress response. So how do we do that? You use balancing of good proteins and good carbohydrates, because the carbohydrates are needed to help fuel the cell hormonal responses and to keep you out of survival mode. The whole concept of really low carb, the thing that no one's discussing, is that If we don't provide our body adequate carbohydrates, then our body is forced to use stress hormones to convert protein and fat to glucose, period. Like, there's no scenario where that's not the outcome. That is how our body gets the glucose it needs to run systems that can only run on glucose. Guess what? To convert thyroid hormone, you need adequate glucose. You need glycogen stored in the liver. If you're not eating it because someone said, no, super low carb for you, then your body will have to raise stress hormones. There's no other mechanism. If it's not there, you have to raise stress hormones to make that glucose. Now, people will say, oh, that's great because you're going to burn through your stored resources and you're going to enter autophagy and you're going to release toxic cells. But here's the thing. In stress mode, our detox pathway shut down because our body's like, oh, holy crap. I've just enacted survival mode. It's like the warning lights go on. Deet, 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 deet. Survival mode has been enacted for this system. We will now enter survival mode. And in survival mode, we don't do the activities of rest with the activities of being well fed. So we don't run our liver detox pathways. No, that's an activity for a well-fed, safe human. Not one whose systems are going, I don't know what just happened, but we seem to have a deficit of energy and food available for use. So in that state, you're digesting your tissues and releasing toxicity, and there's no place to process it. So we're liberating, because when you go break down fat to turn it into glucose, you're going to liberate things that your body put there because it was like, I can't process this. And what's changed? Nothing, except I just upped the stress ante. Because the root there hasn't been healed. Your body's call was, I can't process this. It's too much information. I don't have the resources. Please help me. And then when we cut out carbs, we're responding with, oh, I'm going to help you by taking away more of your resource. Does that work for you? It doesn't work. So there is only one metabolic pathway here when we do this to our bodies, which is why I say it's going to weaken your thyroid response, because if you're not converting thyroid and your cells are working in survival mode, you're not going to use thyroid very effectively. And over time, that really taxes the body. I have seen so many women in my decades in practice who were like, I don't understand. My blood sugar is out of control. And I haven't been eating any carbs. You know why? Because their body's pushing so hard to try to give the brain its fuel and to try to keep up with all these metabolic processes that it's raising blood sugar from digesting your own tissues. And we're ending up with high sugar, even though we're not eating sugar. I have seen that so many times. And the doctors are going, and you know what the doctors say to these people? You're lying. You're eating carbs and not telling me. What? I have had so many women tell me that story. And the doctor or the nutritionist said I was lying. Because they have no model for the stress-based model of glucose production. And so they tell people that they must be lying because, of course, if you're not willing to take responsibility for the fact that maybe you were wrong, you tell people they're lying. So we get gaslighted then by the medical system. You're eating carbs and not telling me. So the ideal diet contains carbohydrates. The amount is going to vary by constitution. The basic, though, is that you're going to want to pair in a very broad sense, and mind you, there will be constitutional differences where this doesn't quite line up. So you're going to want to be eating like 100 grams of protein or 4 ounces or so. And then you're going to want to be eating like about double the carbohydrate to the protein over the course of a day, about double. And those carbohydrates should ideally be coming from cooked root vegetables, grains that have been cooked nice and slow and a lot of fluid, because that makes the spleen so happy, and fruit. And if your fruit is out of season, it should be cooked, because that makes it more digestible. So if you live like I do in a northern climate and there is not fresh fruit year round, then the fruit would need to be cooked. Now, as far as proteins, you're going to want to always do pasture raised if you're doing meat. You're going to want to do the same with eggs. For many people, milk is actually a beautiful additional protein. If you have trouble digesting milk, it's because your thyroid is not functional, because the digestion of milk is actually related to thyroid strength. In most cases, there are going to be small cases where it's not. Milk is actually very balancing for many people to the hormonal systems and stress response. It also can be a great spleen nourisher, especially if it's warm and you add like delicious warming spices like cardamom and cinnamon and ginger, and do like a spiced warm milk. Oh, so good for our spleen. Now there are people who go, oh, but milk causes mucus. There's a difference between the mucus created by milk and that created by cheese. The mucus created by milk is actually like a lubricant. It's working in the body. I know that there are people shaking in their seats right now going, no, that's not what I've been told. And certainly I will not participate in an argument back and forth with people who have different philosophical beliefs of this. I'm not talking philosophy. I am talking just the way that foods work in the body. That's it. We also need to have lots of cooked vegetables because they are a particular kind of information to our body. Plants are so intelligent. If you have not looked at the book, The Secret Life of Plants, it'd be wise. It might be fun to do so, because plants are so intelligent and they have a particular language from the planet that we cannot get other places. They are able to transform. They do alchemy. They transform mineral elements right in the soil. They have this network of communication underneath the soil. They partner with fungi. I mean, they're magical, and they contain minerals in a beautiful bioavailable form. And we cook them because it actually makes it easier for us to access those nutrients, because our spleen, which is in Chinese medicine like the cornerstone of digestion, has to do the alchemy of grabbing the life force out of that food, and it can do it much easier if we're eating cooked foods. Now, I know there's this whole conversation, mind you, I've been a raw vegan. There's a whole conversation in the world that goes, no, when they're uncooked, you have all the enzymes, you have all the nutrients, except for it takes twice the work to digest them. So you're actually expending energy to digest that raw lettuce or that raw spinach. And in the end, you end up at a deficit, an energy deficit. Why are we eating? Because we need the life force energy from the food to run our body. We need the chi. We need the energy. So if our eating depletes our energy, at the end, it was a loss. You know how you can see this? Because granted, was a raw vegan. All the raw food people are cold. Do you know why they're cold? Because they're consuming cold foods, energetically cold foods, not necessarily cold out of the fridge. And it is depleting their chi and their vital force and their yang chi, and they're getting cold. So, ideally, your cells will be happier if you don't do salad or smoothies. And instead you focus on cooked foods. You also want to not have the polyunsaturated fats, canola, safflower, sunflower. Those oils are toxic. They're so toxic. They actually impair the cell's ability to use glucose. So any of you wondering about diabetes out there, None of those. No nuts either. Not, especially if you've got like blood sugar regulation problems. And if you've got thyroid problems, cut the PUFA oils. Now, granted, I think I've never found a woman who didn't have a cell thyroid problem. So at the end of the day, cut the PUFAs because they're not helping you heal. They're blocking you from healing. And they actually entrench shock states in the body, which I also find that a big part of healing is working through the old traumas and hurts and wounds. And if our food is invoking a shock response, we're going to have a lot more trouble actually getting the system to want to shift and change. Fluids need to be consumed based on thirst and body response, not trying to meet some mark. Please ditch any of the advice that's like, you must consume half your body weight in fluid per day. You're just going to overload your kidneys and make the spleen so sad that it just has to keep trying to work through that. And many people have fluid compartment issues. Like if you're wasting minerals, like wasting potassium, or you can't seem to maintain your electrolytes, you have fluid compartment issues. And those are related to stress response. And if you overload the fluids, you're just going to make that worse. And there's a whole host of other things, whether you have dampness, how much the kidneys are involved, the liver is involved, like where the stuck spots are in your body. That all factors into this. I can only give basics here for those who just wanted like basics. In terms of foods, I also recommend like try to keep it simple. If you want to get your energy back, doing complex things like a lot of baked goods, which have tons of ingredients all thrown together, or, like really heavy meals, like lots of fat, are just going to make it hard for your body to heal, because fat is something that we need like kind of a robust furnace to break down. And if you're tired or you have thyroid problems or you have inflammation, you have a more cold model in your system, which means you're not going to be able to take fat and really turn it into energy. So eating high fat when you are needing to heal those systems is going to create like a lot of stickiness. You're probably going to develop more of a damp constitution, and that's going to create heaviness and fogginess and achiness and basically stuckness all over. Now, the topic that I'm going to add to this isn't about what to eat. I really want to just bring in for you to think about, feel into your body that there's a whole energetics to eating. One of the biggest problems I see is like someone goes to a practitioner, they go to a nutritionist, that person goes, you can only eat X. And it's done with that kind of authority. And we all live in this Western society. So let me just say, we all have food trauma. I swear to God we do. Because if you stand in line at the grocery store, it's like, don't eat this. This food makes you fat. This food makes you have X condition or Y condition. Like you go online, it's even worse. We have this trauma related to food, and it goes deep down to our child self. Because what really happens with most plans is that we just get told no, you can't have that. No. And it becomes, now I'm bad if I do. And what happens then is like that child self is like, but I wanna. That food is how I reward myself. It's how I feel good. It's how I remember that I'm loved. It's how I feel connected. It's how I feel like I did a good job. There's something there that needs to be healed. Because you can't just keep forcing rules and thinking that they're going to work. This is why diets fail, is because we have to heal this relationship. We have a relationship with our body. We have a relationship with food. If that relationship is toxic and filled with control and coercion and meanness, it's not going to work. And this is why people go like, I was so good on my diet for 6 weeks and then I fell off and I couldn't get back on. The reason why is that that whole 6 weeks, you were stuffing all the stuff you felt about what was happening. And it finally broke because there wasn't any attention to what you feel, to the voice inside you. There wasn't, and that needs to be felt and released as part of working with food. I foundationally believe we can't work with food if we're not going to work with emotions. Because 99% of people they were eating away for a reason. It wasn't just taste. Like, it's not just that French fries taste yummy. Cake tastes yummy. You were filling a hole in your being with that food. So when we're just looking like, just tell me what foods to eat, that's the taskmaster part of us going, that's it. I am reining this in. This stupid body has just not been listening to me, and that is it. I am drawing the line. That kind of message terrifies so many parts of us. It's so hard. Then we start to restrict, and so often there are parts of us that go, I guess I've been really bad. I guess I'm unworthy. I'm unworthy of love. I'm unworthy of being nourished or my needs being met. What I want is being ignored. And we need to do work to heal that. If we really want to be able to have peace with food. And that is part of our cell healing. Because there's all these interconnected places where these emotional states actually equal cells that won't even take in the nutrients. The membranes are rigid. It's so interwoven. The other thing that I just want to touch on is like when people go, I get it. I'll let myself eat whatever I want, but I'm going to intermittently fast. I'm only going to eat 6 hours a day. Not even talking about how stressful it is on the body. I mean, even like eating a whole day's worth of food in 6 hours is like, oh my God, our digestive system. Like, wow. But secondarily, when we start saying like, I'm only going to show up with food a little bit each day, those parts of us are like, I feel like I'm on my own. I don't know when the next nourishment's going to come. I don't know when it's going to come. Because there's so much of the time that no one shows up when I call for it. Because the only way we do that is that we learn to suppress our relationship to hunger, which means we numb out. As a huge numbing technique, is that we master our body by controlling our hunger. Instead, if we start to really relate to like, what am I feeling? Is that hunger or something else? Body, what do you need? What do you need to say to me? What would make you feel nourished right now? What would make you feel safe? What would be fun? Then we start to change the relationship. We're so afraid of being hungry. So many people are so afraid of being hungry because hunger means that now they don't know what to do. They're going to eat the wrong thing. They're going to do it wrong. And this is part of what has to be healed. When I work with the women in Thriving Health, I don't even discuss food until like a month into the program. The reason being, we have to start to unwind some of this stuff. If we approach it like that taskmaster, that's it. I have my diet. They said this many grams of this many grams of that, this many grams of this, that's it. We're just shifting one stress response for another. And it's so hard and so rigid and so rude and so harsh on us. It may produce a temporary response, but it's not going to last because the reality is the root was cell stress. Now we're using a different kind of stress to make the body try to behave, and it'll try to respond for a while, but then it's just going to it's all going to fall apart because we're controlling. We don't heal through control. We heal through partnership. Our cells are mini universes. They're divine. It's like we're trying to tell God what to do. Instead, why don't we take the intelligence there and partner with it? Stop trying to override it with our human mental picture. So I saved this for last because I know so many people are, again, if you watched my video yesterday about just plugging holes, so much of the time we're like, just tell me what pill to take and what food to eat and I'll go. And it's like, that's 30%. That's 30%. Because the rest of it is about unwinding that cell stress and relating to our body. And partnering. Every illness on the planet is a call to partnership. I don't care what it is. They're just ways our body goes, no one's been partnering with me. Please partner with me. And most of the time we don't, because it's not the model out there. But when we do, we can heal it all. And it actually becomes easy. When you start to heal these relationships, food cravings go away. Like, I could care less if there was a cake or brownies or French fries, right in front of me. It just, if I want them, I eat them. But most of the time, I'm like, that doesn't interest me. You want to see what food really is to you, just ask yourself next time, you have, but I want to eat this. Ask, what do I want this food to do for me? The answers are surprising. So often they're like, I want it to make me happy. I want it to make my stomach feel better. I want it to stop my head from hurting. And then you can ask, is it capable of doing that? And if the answer is no, at least we can see, oh, I'm trying to make the pain stop. I'm trying to make the chatter stop. I'm trying to make myself feel loved. I'm trying to make myself feel joy. I'm trying to give myself an experience. I'm trying to treat myself because I feel like I'm not getting any support, downtime, rest, compassion. No one's listening to me. No one's seeing me. There are so many things. And that needs attention. And our food plans need to recognize that. What I find too, you guys, is that just from a functional level, when we balance foods to our cell constitutions, suddenly we can access this stuff easier and our body stops wanting to try to fill the hole with all these other foods. The cravings go away. But that's also because it's not, when I work with people in food, it's not like, I've never told someone I can't believe you ate that, because I don't believe in shame as a motivator. And instead it's like curiosity, this is so interesting. What's really happening when that craving comes? What's happening when this happens? Let's look at that. Let's feel it. Let's give it attention. Let's love it and see what happens. And that's why people heal with me, and why they can sustain it is because they learn how to relate to their body and their cells and those voices and the needs and the pangs and and their body can heal. So food is so important. I hope you learned something valuable here. I hope you got some kind of inspiration, some kind of insight. And I will say, it is a part of the journey that I feel needs a tremendous amount of support, because it isn't really just about the food. So if you want to change that relationship, or you really want to know, what do my cells want? How do I exit survival mode? What really would be ideal for me to eat? How do I go about that? Send me a message, comment on the video. You can set up a free consult with me. It's such a sacred part of the journey, but we do have to do it very consciously. And I'll tell you right now, no, I've never met a dietitian that's going to sit down and have a conversation with you about all the energetics and the emotional side of food beyond a few cursory words. Or most doctors don't have time for it. They won't do it. They're like, just follow the diet. What's the big deal? Why aren't you just doing it? That tells you where they operate from. God, why can't you just do it? You're lying to me. You ate carbs. It's like, oh, Shut up. Go heal your shit and then sit down and help people. So that's why I work this way, because we have to compassionately do every step of healing, not just there's one diet for this and just go eat your food. Good God, what's wrong with you? Like, that model is broken and it does not help us heal, and it entrenches our trauma and it makes us feel unworthy. And that's going to swing back around and boot us in the butt at some point. And we're going to find ourselves sitting with a whole Boston cream pie going, what the heck am I doing? We can be done with the guilt surrounding food. I love you. You all are beautiful. You're amazing. You're powerful. You're strong. You're capable. You're worthy. Be kind to you. Blessings.